Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ascension Academy podcast, where we talk about all things related to healing, spirituality, and the ascension on planet Earth. I am your host, Lauren Denny. I am an energy healer, channeler, medicine woman, singer songwriter, dancer, and Galactic Federation ambassador. In today's episode, we will be talking with Carol Quinn about crystals. And we have a wonderful piece for anyone who is brand new to crystals, or if you do have experience with crystals and you're wanting to learn. I've heard that Carol is the crystal whisperer or the crystal guru, so we're going to learn from all of her expertise. And so Carol Quinn is the owner of Heaven in Earth, a small, intimate crystal boutique that primarily caters to healers and energy workers. She is also a certified crystal healer, master of Christology, angelic Reiki master and teacher, Usui Reiki 2 practitioner, Seraphic wisdom practitioner, Seraphic rose pyramid system practitioner, and trained under Charles Virtue as a certified angel practitioner, certified angelic life coach, and certified advanced angel practitioner. Welcome, Carol.
Welcome. When I hear you read all that, I'm like, oh my gosh, just say she's a seeker. That's all.
She's a seeker. She's a lifelong seeker.
A lifelong seeker.
Yeah. So, Carol, I'm so excited to have you on. I've heard so many good things about you. So, where should we start? If someone has never picked up a crystal or used it for healing purposes before, where would they start? What do they need to know?
Okay. Well, let's first just start off very briefly to kind of be on the same page that I'm at, so everyone that listens kind of knows where I'm coming from. I want to talk just a little bit about energy and how energy works with humans. So humans, how we're wired, we're considered to be entropic or chaotic energy. So we don't have a consistent vibration all the time. And that's very apparent by our emotions, right? We're happy, we're mad, we're angry, we're frustrated, we're depressed, all of these things. So we really, what we do is we entrain to the energy around us. So you can think of, if you are listening to classical music, how do you feel versus listening to some, punk rock music, or sitting next to a beach, an ocean beach on it, or being at a professional football game. The energy is so different and your vibration changes with it. So that's what we do. That's what humans do. But stones or crystals, and I'll use those terms interchangeably. There is technical geological definitions for them, but I'm not a geologist. I'm just a crystal lover. So we'll just use those terms interchangeably. But crystals themselves have a very constant, even frequency. They don't go up and down they are not entropic. They just go very steady no matter what's going on around them. So the magic happens with crystals is when you take crystals or stones and you pull them into your energy field, you begin to entrain to that energy. And that's why crystals work. They're not doing the work for you. You're doing your own work, but they're setting the tone or the vibration for you that your body and your systems entrain to. So that's why they work. We have a physical body, right? And then right on top of our physical body is an etheric body. And the way I understand it is that it looks just like us, but it holds all of our experiences from the inception of our soul and carries our soul plan with us. And then beyond that, we have an emotional body and a mental body and a causal or soul body. And those are all what we refer to as subtle bodies, though you can't physically see them. They're affecting our physical body all the time. And how they affect our physical body or give us messages is through what we call the chakras, right? Or the chakras are the energy systems. We have dozens, if not hundreds, of chakras all over us. but humans mainly focus on the 7 physical chakras that affect your physical body. And because we entrain to the energy around us, and because we are really a culmination of all of our experiences and our influences, our chakras can get clogged or they can close down. And that closes our communication to our other subtle bodies, our etheric body, mental body, our emotional body, and our soul and our higher self. So we can't hear what we're supposed to do. So crystals work really well to open up those chakras and keep them spinning open and pure so we can maintain a direct line of communication with our higher self and all of our subtle bodies. So for me, that's where the magic of crystals comes in. And that's what they do for us. One of the things a lot of people, especially when they're first starting with crystals, will want to know, my left elbow hurts. What crystal will heal that? I am not a medical doctor. I am not trained in medicine, so I never tell people that crystals will physically heal you. You physically heal yourself. But what the crystals are doing is setting space for you, putting you in that vibration and that frequency where you can hear yourself and understand your body and connect with what's causing the pain. I mean, obviously there's physical pain, like you've got a big scratch, you put a Band-Aid on, but a lot of times things manifest in physical reality based on things that are off balance in your, say, your mental or your emotional bodies. And that crystals help bring all of that back into balance and clear and neutralize. So that's kind of, I just wanted to kind of set the tone for that, because that's how I see how crystals work. So when you, if you're new to crystals, or you're beginning to become interested in them, there's lots of ways that you can go about to choose a crystal for yourself. One of the most common things people do is they just go to a book or they Google, my left elbow hurts, what rock will help with that? Or my heart is broken, my boyfriend just left me, or, things like that. And you can find all sorts of resources online that speak to that. Or now there's just a plethora of books out there on crystals and crystal healing. When I started my journey to dive really deep with crystals about 10 to 12 years ago, there was not that kind of library out there for me to access. So a lot of my work in understanding crystals was all self-taught and in states of meditation and working actually with the crystals and learning to trust myself. So you've got the books and Google, which is fine, and it's very helpful when you're in a hurry or you really don't know which way to turn. That's fine. Another method of choosing crystals a lot of people will use is simply match the color of the stone to your chakras. So if you're familiar with the chakra system, like root is red and the heart can be pink or green, and your third eye is a dark blue. You can choose stones, and a lot of people will recommend that you choose stones that match the chakras. So if you're dealing with heartache or grief, you would look for stones that are either pink or green. Or if you have a closed throat chakra and you're not speaking your truth, you would look for crystals that are that lighter blue color that tend to resonate with the vibration of that particular chakra. There's also generalities, like in general terms, angels are associated with the color blue. Love is associated with the color pink. And nature spirits are associated with the color green. So if you want to communicate with fairies, you can look for green crystals, etc. So those are very valid ways to go about picking crystals. But for me, and especially newer people to crystals get frustrated with me because they will ask, "What crystal do I get for this?" I'm like, "Use your intuition." And they're
Yeah.
like, They don't want to do that. Just tell them what you need to do. But really, quite honestly, my personal experience, because I had to be primarily self-taught for the first few years, is you have to be able to trust your intuition on what you need. So I guess kind of a off the top of the head example is if you have a heartache, you have a relationship that ended, be it a friendship or romantic, and Google and the books and the chakra color say, but you go to a store and you're looking and you're really attracted to another stone that's a different color. Perhaps you're attracted to a stone that quote unquote would be considered a third eye stone, a blue stone or whatever. What I say is that's the stone that you need. That's not the pink stone that you need, because perhaps part of the grief process behind the breakup is that you have a clogged third eye and you were unable to see all of the things that were happening, or you were unable to see the higher lessons and the beauty behind the relationship and all that kind of thing. So if you are uncomfortable with your intuition or don't believe that you have any, this process of picking stones intuitively is a great way to get comfortable with your intuition. Because what I will do, and I still do it, is I will find a crystal or a stone that I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And I'll purchase it. And then I go home and I Google it and I read what people say. And I'm like, oh my God, my intuition was right on. Yay, me. So it's a great way to really communicate with and learn how to communicate with crystals. I mean, putting it in human terms, for example, like you and I are having a conversation and it's going to be very specific. But when I get off this call and I go have coffee with someone, we're going to talk about something completely different, right? Though I'm the same person and hold within me the same energy, I communicate differently with different people depending on what part of my life I'm in. Crystals are the same way. They have, they have a consciousness. They are a living, breathing consciousness. And that's something that we have to remember. Just because they don't move fast like us, they have their own personality. So even I've noticed when I've bought lot of crystals of some sort from a vendor, and it's the same material, each individual piece is very, very different because they're individuals. They have, for example, overall, Americans love their fried chicken, right? Or something like that, but not every American eats fried chicken. Or Americans tend to be a lot more laid back and more kind of free spirited than, say, an uptight Brit or whatever. Right? We have these general definitions, but there are some very easygoing British people and there's some real uptight Americans. So you can't, um, you get into a very dangerous area, I feel like, when you start to classify a specific type of crystal as being only resonating with a certain thing that the book said. Well, page 69 of this book said that this is what citrine is always used for. But citrine can be used for a lot of different things depending on your personal relationship with that crystal. Does any of that make sense?
It makes so much sense. I never thought about that before.
Yeah. And the other thing that's important to remember about the books and Googling is that it is that particular individual's personal experience with that crystal. So a good example is rose quartz.
Yeah.
Now, many people, so how I see it is many people over a course of time connect with rose quartz and they'll write about it or they'll Google about it or they'll teach about it or they'll tell their friends about it. And an overall arching theme for rose quartz is heart healing and relationship related. That's an overall theme. It doesn't mean that's the only thing they do. So normally what I say about the books and the Googling is that it's just an overall general overarching theme for that particular stone. And don't be discouraged or be repelled from that particular stone if someone on the internet said it's not for what you need it for, but you really feel like you need it for that, use it. Absolutely use it. To me, that's the most powerful way to pick crystals and choose them.
I'm going to say that's empowering.
It is very empowering. And that's how I very quickly began to develop a relationship with the Crystal Kingdom. Is I totally connected to them as individual beings instead of just this like thing I bought at a store that was going to help my house look pretty or make me feel good. They were my buddy. They were my friend. I'm their caretaker. I'm responsible for them now.
Conscious,
Um,
alive beings.
they really are. And my spiritual growth of catapulted, if you will, since I've started working with crystals. They have helped me learn so much about myself, my soul's destiny, what this planet is about. It's unbelievable what they can teach you if you allow them to teach you and not use them as a tool that's just a convenience to you, because they're not. They have a consciousness, right? They have a consciousness about them. So it's important to remember that. The last piece I just want to mention that is kind of mind blowing, but it's the truth because my truth, I guess, because I've experienced it, is a lot of time crystals will literally fall through other dimensions to find you. That they have been tools and allies that you've used in other lifetimes or other dimensions that step through and finally find you when you're ready. And it's a common like clear quartz. It's a common thing that I see is people just are like, oh my God, I don't know what this quartz is about, but I just love it. Because you have things like the Lemurian quartz that has encoded in them information from the Lemurian and Atlantean times. And you have quartz that's called record keeper quartz. And that could be any kind of quartz. It's how they're marked on the point that will hold information. It's like a backup drive for your computer. They did it back then to save information. And record keepers are interesting because they could be holding information for the general collective, or they could be holding the information just for you. So it's important when I've learned this the hard way at many rock shows over the years. When I see a quartz that I'm so attracted to, and I just put it back, I'm like, oh, I'll come back, or maybe I'll find something cheaper, and it's gone by the time I get there. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I missed my opportunity. But so they will do that. And I do make some wands, and that is completely guided by spirit on how I assemble them. I find natural wood. I don't do any carving, and I add crystals to them. And the creation, it is not uncommon for me to argue with the process, going, I don't think I like this particular stone right here. And what? And they're like, just do it. You can change it later if you want, but just trust us. And I'll do it. And the wand turns out beautiful. But what I found is when I take them to fairs or shows and someone purchases them, it is more than 50%. I would say probably about 70% of the time, they're almost in tears crying when they find them. They're like, I don't know what it is about this. It's like I've known this wand forever. And then they finally said, duh, Carol, this is why we tell you to assemble it a certain way, because it is a tool that's being reconstructed in this dimension to meet up with their ally, their human ally now. So yeah, there is a deep soul recognition of each other when they come together. And it is honestly one of the most beautiful things I've experienced since I've had my business. Yes. Yes. So those are kind of the ways I would recommend people how you go about choosing a crystal, but truly the best way for you to do it is really by your intuition. Just what are you drawn to? Why did you go to across the store into that bin and found that particular quartz or obsidian piece or whatever it is, that's what you need to get. That's what's calling that they're winking at you. I call it. They're winking at you to get them. Yeah. Yeah.
So I definitely do want to dive into more like how people can use them and how they can work with them. But I also want to ask you a question based off of what you just said. I think it's so beautiful how you've said your spiritual growth just really accelerated after working with crystals and they've taught you so much. Can you expand on what you mean by that? Or maybe like one example of like an aha moment or just a big spiritual like leap growth moment you had with crystals? Is it just like how you've refined your intuition, or how you've seen how they come through different dimensions and are, finding people, or how you've learned that they're these conscious, awake beings and how to have a relationship with them? Or are there other examples that you would want to share?
So primarily for me, what I noticed it's like you just can't buy one stone, right? It's once you get one stone, it's like next thing you know, you have, I'm not kidding you, thousands in your house. And so when I first was starting, it was an obsession. I would come home with I mean, it was ridiculous how much money I was spending on them, and I didn't know why. But
So
what
beautiful. It's hard to say no.
what I was doing, what I found out I was doing, is those were all my allies, and they were all like holding space for me. So like if you lose somebody and you go to the lunch after the funeral and everyone stands around you and provides comfort for you, this is what the stones were doing for me. Is they were holding space for me while my energy fields began to settle down and clear and release. Because I am, and not as bad as I used to be, but oh my God, I have this monkey mind that will not stop. I love to go down rabbit holes. I love to overthink things. I love to not believe anything that I get. And I have been very intuitive and very claircognizant since I was a child, but I was shut down. So I was conditioned not to believe any of it. And so when I start to go, oh my gosh, there's something here, my mind goes, no, it isn't. You're crazy. Well, all of these crystals began to hold space for me and help me clear and settle my mind. And then they're probably my very first, and it would be one of my recommendations if we talk about a beginner's toolkit, if you will, is amethyst. Amethyst is there are so many different kinds of amethyst on the planet, and each, depending on where they come in the world, brings a little different vibration with them. But in general, amethyst carries the violet flame energy. So it's all about transmutation and transmuting all of that negative energy that we've built up in our system, but it's a slow burn. So there are some stones that are really powerful when you first hold them, and they're just so high vibe. Amethyst is high vibe, but it's able to deliver just very calmly and soothingly too. So you like hardly even know that you're changing. It's like, oh,
Gentle.
I'm not overreacting again. I'm just letting that one just slide off me. I'm not letting that person get under my skin. I'm like, I wonder what that's all about. Um, but I noticed after a time, it was because of the amethyst that I had on me all the time. I was either wearing it or I had chevron amethyst was my favorite at the time. I just really loved that. I have had so many experiences that I can't even remember them. But when you were asking me, this one popped into me. It was probably back in 2015. I was not diving deep yet into crystals, but over the years, since I had my daughter, who is now in her early 30s, but we would go and shopping and whatever, and I would find little crystals, and I would tend to buy polished clear quartz points that had rainbows in them. And a lot of the inventory I carry have rainbows in them because there's something about rainbow energy that absolutely delights me. And it brings so much magic to whoever owns that crystal. And I believe that like rainbows and crystals help bridge us to other higher dimensions. And so I didn't know this back then. I just loved the rainbows in the quartz. So I bought one and I was laying with it in bed or meditating with it or whatever I was doing. And very, very clearly, I heard them say this weird name. And I'm like, excuse me, what? And they said it again. It was like a set of syllables. They said it again. And I'm like, what? I don't understand this at all. And I said, what does this mean? And they said, that who you are, that who you am. So what they were telling me is they gave me my name that I am recognized by in other realms. And then they proceeded to give me a symbol that is like a doorbell. So if I wanted to connect with a specific being or a specific realm, go into the Fey realm or meet with one of my guides who's in a different realm, I could use that symbol as a doorbell and say my name 3 times, and they would know that it's like, hi, it's Carol. Come in, kind of thing. So it can be as really as crazy as that, or it could just be something really subtle like what Amethyst had done. I wish I would have thought to write down all the different experiences I have had with them, but primarily many of them have shown me different emanations of myself and different timelines and different dimensions of who I am, so I can use them to connect with that aspect of myself. And through that time of using them, there seems to again to be that bridge, because a lot of them have rainbows, that bridge for me to download or embody skills, remembrances, those kinds of things.
Healings on those parts of yourself when you
Pardon
connect
me?
with the other pieces or timelines or soul aspects? Are you also healing those parts of you, or is it more of
No, absolutely.
that too? Okay.
Absolutely. One of the, powerful stones that have taught me so many lessons, and I had developed classes from them too, is petrified wood. So petrified wood taught me all about what we're all about, like how we work in our multidimensionality. And she simply put us in the context of a tree. And she showed me, she's like, in the old days, you have the trunk of the tree, which is your soul. It's like who you are. It's your connection to God. And all of the branches and the limbs that go out represent tenets. Each of us have different tenets we're working on, whatever it is, abundance, unconditional love, leadership skill, I mean, whatever it is. And off of those limbs come branches, which are all the different lifetimes that you are living or have lived, however you want to look at it, to experience that particular tenant. And the leaves are the different people that you're working with in those lifetimes and such. And so all of those experiences, right? You're pulling in from the leaves, photosynthesis and energy, but putting it in human terms, you're pulling all of this energy in from all of these lifetimes, feeding it down into the trunk of the tree, i.e., your soul. And then the roots pull that energy of your experiences into the collective energy of humanity. So I don't have to live your life, and you don't have to have my life, because I get to connect, if I so choose, with your traumas and your joys just by tapping into the collective energies of the planet. But what she taught me though, now in the nowadays, today, our consciousness has moved, like who we are right now, you and our consciousness has moved to the trunk of the tree. We're not experiencing it way off here on this limb. We're now channeling and running everything, all of our aspects, all of our lifetimes, all of our emanations, however you want to word them, into our now present moment. If you are dealing with abandonment issues in this lifetime, and you are confronted with dealing with abandonment today, like for whatever reason, what is happening is that all of the leaves on the tree are shaking wherever abandonment had ever been an issue in any of your timelines. They're like, oh my God, she's clearing it now. She's clearing it now. And they all come running through down into the trunk of the tree, into this consciousness, who we are now. So not only me, but I think many people, when we go through quote unquote healing crises or clearings, or healings of emotional wounds, our responses seem to be so out of proportion to what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Like, why am I getting so upset? This is not that big of a deal. So they didn't meet me for lunch and forgot to text me.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've been abandoned. I've been abandoned. But in fact, it's because you have triggered the leaves on the branches of the tree, and all issues of abandonment are now trying to be cleared at the same time. And with that awareness, then you can calm the F down, if you will, and just so worked up by the fact that you're overreacting to something, because it's just simply you trying to heal all of yourselves and all of your times and timelines. So yes, I believe that that is a very true statement, that you do heal. You are healing currently through the use of crystals and with the understanding of all these different lifetimes. And petrified wood taught me that. A piece of petrified wood taught me all of that. So this is what I'm saying, is that they are living creatures, and they will work with you if you respect them as what they are, and not, again, just something you throw in the corner with your shoes and your basketball at the end of the day. So
You just blew my mind.
I still blow my mind when I talk about the stories she has taught me and the lessons that she has taught me. And that was one of the most powerful shifts of my life, is through her understanding that so many of us are empaths, right? And we feel the pain of others. And by not fully knowing how to set boundaries, even if I don't know that we can fully ever set boundaries, but we want to take on everyone else's pain. And we want to help them through whatever crisis they're going through. But Petrified Wood, one of her main personal lessons for me is, you don't have to take on any of that. You can be compassionately detached. So you don't have to feel their pain and feel like, oh, well, this person's experiencing cancer. I feel so bad. Maybe I should experience it. It's not fair that they do it. Or that person lost a spouse or a child in a horrible accident. I feel so bad. Why them? Why isn't it me? Maybe I should be experiencing this. Just, you know what I'm saying? But she taught me, like, that's so unfair, because you have a whole list of stuff that you are experiencing on behalf of the collective, so they don't have to experience that.
So I have a question for you. So working with the petrified wood or the other crystals that have taught you things, like especially the teachers, is it through meditation, like you're holding them and you receive messages? Is it through wearing them? Or how would you say you kind of develop relationships with them and experience them as these teachers?
For me, primarily to learn lessons like that, it's conscious meditation. So holding them and asking the question, what do you have anything to say to me? What lessons have you brought to me? Can you show me why I'm reacting this way, or whatever that is? That is how I normally have done it. After a while, and because I live and breathe crystals, I don't have to go into a formal meditative state. Like, a lot of people think that meditation needs to be this long, drawn out process with a set of steps that you have to take to reach a certain state, which is fine and perfect and good. But my life was busy and is busy. I don't have time to do that. So I literally can just, like, pick up a crystal and just hold it and talk to you and know what messages they're giving me, if they're giving me anything, because I've been able to multidimensionally connect with them at will
Yes.
based on a relationship that I've developed with them. And because they are like, it's just like dogs and cats. Sorry, like I've got a crystal skull sitting next to me. So no, it's not, we're not quite like cats and dogs, but thanks for the reference. We get you, you human. Um, they're wary of us. They're like, what do you want from us?
I
And
see.
if you go in with an open heart, and they can energetically see who you are. And yes, she is very eager to learn, expand, and bring gifts to the world or messages to the world, if that's so what I'm to do or others to do. Yes, we'll work with you. But if it's more of an ego trip,
Yeah.
a lot of people will use crystals as a thing, an ego thing, like, oh yes, my crystal said this, because and and not really even so much seeing that or really believing it. It's just more of an egoic thing. They will shut down and they won't respond to you. They have other things to do, right? They can do something else. Wearing jewelry to me, and well, gosh, like I have all of these,
It's fun today for our you.
and this is kind of being calm. I took my of them off, and I wear stones, and I'll wear pendants, and I'm not kidding you. I am not kidding you. I spend more time deciding what my jewelry is that I'm going to wear for the day than the clothing that I put on.
More important.
Yeah, and that's if we talk a little bit later about grids, that's part of it. It's like I'm literally gridding myself, not so much on a conscious basis, but it's like this, because I do more like, oh, this feels right or this doesn't feel right. I'm not thinking of today I want to bring in this particular stream of energy. I'm just like, this feels right to me. And now I will take, and I changed my necklaces a couple times today, this morning, because like, no, this just doesn't feel right. So it sort of brings a force field, if you will, for the day around you, and it just is giving you that. It's like your Wonder Woman outfit that you wear all day, and you will find, depending on how you change your jewelry out, you will move through the world a little bit differently. You'll feel a little bit different. But because of who I am, and because of how immersed I am with the Crystal Kingdom, I feel so safe in my house because I have so many crystals. I feel comfortable. But when I'm out there in the real world, well, the real world, I can't bring my 27 wagons of crystals with me.
You
I
can't.
can feel really flabbergasted and really just not grounded at all. So that's why I always
Where?
make sure I have something on me that makes me feel like I'm in a crystal cave and safe.
Yeah. Like, yeah, a force field around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I want to ask you a few. So we talked about you can meditate with them, you can wear them. I
Mhm.
definitely want to ask you kind of other ways that you can work with them. And then I would love to ask you about the beginner's toolkit and what some good ones are for someone who's starting out. So, what are other ways, like you've said, you can have them in your home so they could just be around and, sending that energy to your home. How else can you use them in your daily life?
So you can use them for meditation, and mainly meditation. You'll want to use them with your receiving hand, your receptive hand, which is usually the opposite of your dominant hand. That's a rule of thumb. You can use them to help you sleep because, again, remember, humans entrain to the
Yeah.
energy around them. So if you have a hard time sleeping, you want to bring crystals to bed with you that calm the monkey mind. Amethyst is a perfect one. Lepidolite is a really good one. There are having stones or crystals near your bed. I actually have them in bed with me. Some
Mhm.
people just put them next to their bed. You can use them to help remember your dreams or to actually help you do astral travel. You
Cool.
can you can with focused intention in dream time, you can say, and now it doesn't always work depending on the level of connection, and if they really think that you should be doing what you're doing anyways.
Yeah.
You can use them for communication with other realms. So the angelic realm, the Fey realm, working with people that have passed, with galactics. You can use quartz crystal, tends to be really good with doing those kinds of things. But then you have that general rule of different blue stones will help you connect with angels better. You can do it that way. Grounding. The darker stones, the dark black stones or dark brown stones, are really good for grounding. And that's real. And when I say grounding, I mean being present in the moment. So you're not here worrying about what's going to happen in the future, or you're so upset about the past and you become scatterbrained and you get in an accident or whatever when you're out driving. So grounding stones just help you stay present in the very moment. Crystals are wonderful tools for emotional and spiritual healing. And we kind of touched base on that before, so I won't go into a whole lot of that. You can use them for shamanic tools. So if you do shamanic work, there are crystals you can use that help you go into the lower world journeys, or middle world or upper world journeys. They have been extremely powerful tools for me to use when I want to do void work or I'm doing shadow work. A lot of people are afraid to do shadow work and void work, but hey, baby, that's where it's all at. You got to go in, you got to go in to do it. And um, I have found personally that a lot of the darker stones that are used for shadow work and void work are associated with the dark goddesses, who are in fact very protective. They provide a very safe womb space for you when you're doing that kind of work. Um, you can use crystals for protection. So you can use them both for energetic protection from negative energies that they kind of push them back or they transmute them. Or you can use them for physically for the EMFs, the electromagnetic frequency things that come off of computers and phones and televisions and electricity and lights and all of that. There are some ferromagnetic stones that really help neutralize that. And the most popular one is black tourmaline or shungite. A lot of people use those. And then very, very important, powerful tools for ascension. And when I say ascension, I mean my definition of ascension is moving from your mind to your high heart. So that is to me ascension. It's not floating off into another world, or I mean maybe that's what's going to happen, but it's about moving from the mind to the heart. And the crystals have been absolutely invaluable to me to be able to move into my high heart and activate my high heart space. So and then just in general terms, they really can help you develop your intuition and help you remember your gifts from other lifetimes and pull them through and help anchor them into your being today so that you can use them. So those are different things.
Incredible tools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like if Mother Earth has given us all of these tools and helpers, we should learn how to utilize them. I think, why not if we're called to?
Absolutely. With respect and reverence.
Yeah.
That is so important that people realize that they are living, breathing, conscious beings. Just because their molecular structure vibrates a lot slower than ours doesn't mean that they don't have a consciousness. And I think just with anything, and even people that do gardening or grow plants, you love a plant, the plant does wonderful. You ignore it or treat it horribly, it doesn't do so well. It's the same with crystals.
Incredible. So, what would you say would be a good beginner's toolkit? What are some good ones to start off with?
I just put a little list. Let me just put it up here to see what we have here.
Yes.
Well, we talked about amethyst already.
Yes.
That to me would, if you were only perfect. Perfect. If you were to get only one stone and that's all your mommy will let you buy, it would be an amethyst. It's so all-purpose. It helps you connect to higher realms. It helps you with sleep time. It helps you with dream recall. It helps with transmutation of energy. It is just this fantastic, amazing crystal. Have some sort of a dark stone to help with that grounding and protection I talked about. So black tourmaline is a go-to. If you can't find black tourmaline, hematite's a nice one, or lodestone. Um, Anything with iron in it is going to help ground you and help kind of repel that negative energy. And of course, for someone brand new to this, rose quartz is a must. There are so many other beautiful. There you go.
I like the amethyst and the rose quartz. I'm not wearing a grounding one today, but usually I do. But yeah,
Amethyst will help ground you though too.
great.
Yeah, so you're good. Rose quartz is a beautiful stone for relationships, for heart expansion, and for love, not only love of others, but self-love. Very important, very important. There's lots of other really powerful heart stones like that, but for beginners or newbies, rose quartz is an easy one to find on the market. Selenite is, yes, that is a really high vibe stone, very easy to find. It's considered to be one of the self-clearing stones. So I actually have a slab of selenite in my room. When I take all my jewelry off at night, I put all my jewelry on the selenite to clear. If I get new stones, I will often put them on the selenite for a few hours so it clears. It's a great stone to connect with higher energy. So it's really a very powerful crown chakra stone. And it also, so a lot of, to me, there's just kind of has to be maybe a little shift in perspective, or at least I had a shift in perspective. A lot of people were teaching and taught that you needed to surround yourself with dark stones for protection, to dispel and push away the energy, right? Well, if everyone's pushing away the negative energy, where does it go?
That's a good point.
It like all starts to collect, and then I have all these crazy folks running around because they're taking it all on. Well, things like selenite and then rutilated quartz is another really good one. They just bring in so much light, right? That it's not pushing it away. It's just like dissipating it. And amethyst will do the same thing with negative energy, is it doesn't push it back to the person, it transmutes it. So just think about, people need to think about that as we spend so much time trying to protect ourselves. You're pushing it all back into a space that's getting narrower and smaller and more compact because more and more people are waking up, right? So carnelian is a nice one to have in a beginner's toolkit. It can be an orange or a yellowish type stone. So it's working on the lower chakras, and it can bring in courage and stability and creativity and joy and all of those things. So it's a really good kind of fire stone to like light your belly, if you will, if you need to get some fire in your belly kind of thing. I personally love labradorite, and labradorite is a good one for travel, physical travel and astral travel and dream travel. So I have a piece of labradorite in my car, and some people will take it when they're traveling on an airplane. It's a great shamanic tool if you do any kind of shamanic work. So you're doing any of those journeys, or if you're doing any astral traveling or want extra, if you will, sort of protection or shrouding, if you will, when you're in dream time, if you tend to have nightmares, uneasy dreams. Labradorite is a good one. And then citrine and again, a very common stone to find. It's a form of quartz, but it brings, my God, it is a powerful solar plexus stone. So to me, it reminds me of the energy of Leo or the king. So it helps you step into your power, and it helps you just put your will out there. It brings in abundance. It brings in sunshine and joy. It's just this refreshing stone. What I would though say is, if you do not own citrine and you're looking for a piece, the citrine that looks kind of browny orangish has been heat treated. It is not in its natural state. So natural citrine tends to be lighter to almost pale clear yellow. So be aware of that. It doesn't mean that heat-treated citrine doesn't work. It's just that it's not in its natural state. And if you are like I'm like totally into my natural thing, yeah, I would not get it. Then it's always nice to maybe just have a clear quartz of some sort. And you can use that. Clear quartz can be programmable, so you can use it to focus your intentions in your meditations. You can use it if you do Reiki, and you can put it over a chakra you're working on or part of the body that you want to send energy to help unclog blocks. You can use it like a wand. So clear quartz of some sort is always good to have. But other than that, I mean, that almost covers all of the 7 chakras. You can always, again, do the one color, the color for each chakra in your toolkit also. And so you can lay down on the bed and you can just lay the stones over there is not a nose chakra, by the way. Yeah. It's the newest chakra on the, my gosh. You can lay with the stones on your chakras and just lay there, and they can help clear them out and clean out the gunk and stuff. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, a few other things that you've mentioned. You talked about cleaning your crystals, so I would love to ask you for tips on that, and definitely about gridding with them and programming them. So let's start with clearing and cleaning them. How often do you do that? And is there like a general rule of thumb, like every time you buy a new crystal, bring it home from the shop, should you clear it then, or like every week or so?
So for me, what I most definitely, when I bring home a new crystal, and I even do it for my store, my shop, they all get washed with soap and water. And that's just physical cleanliness and hygiene, because you've had so many people that have touched it. And a lot of times they're not necessarily cleaned that well when they're being pulled from the mine and repackaged and moved through dealer to dealer to dealer. So definitely do that. Now, some stones are very fragile, and you can't really soak them and scrub them in soap and water. So you can just very gently wipe them down. That's the physical hygiene of crystals. So yes, you do that. And I will do it with my skulls and any other piece. If I have people over and they're handling my stones, I will give them a bath and wash them afterwards. Shh, don't tell anybody that's watching this that may have touched one of the stones that I do that. But I do that. Energetic cleaning. There's lots of different philosophies out there about what you should do and how often you should do it. So again, I hate to just say this, but it's like, use your intuition. But you go again. But what I do whenever I bring a stone home, I especially do this for my business. And it's a process and it takes time, but it's important for me. Every time, just like a human, when you walk into a room and with a bunch of people, if they're all mad and angry with each other, you take some of that with you and you feel angry and frustrated when you leave. Same if they're all hyper and cheery and happy, you feel really uplifted when you leave. Every time someone picks up a crystal and holds it and says, "Oh, this is so lovely," or the dealer or the handler, and they're having a bad day and they fought with their wife, or, their kid's a jerk and got thrown in jail, whatever, a little piece of them kind of hangs out in the aura of the crystal. So I energetically will clear them after I give them a bath. I will use sage. I will use smoke on them. But you can that's how initially I do it. And then from moving forward, for both personal and business ones, if I feel that they need them, I will do a quicker version of clearing after many people have handled them, or if they've possibly been taken to a class or a situation or a group gathering where the energy was kind of funky. I'll put them on my selenite plate for a period of time, usually just overnight. It just depends. a really quick, effective way to clear your crystals energetically is to use a form of any kind of form of sound healing. So you can use rattles or sound bowls or drums or little, those things.
Tuning forks or
Like the tuning forks, yes. And I think tingsha, do they say tingsha? I don't know if that's
I
the
don't
right
know
word.
that word, but like the ding, like
Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. You
Yeah,
can use
this
those.
it sounds like a good method because you could like set all your crystals out and just take a rattle and like do it all at once.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Also, like when I was getting my crystal healing certification, the lady that taught me, she would recommend that you just use your third eye beam. Like you could just beam light from your third eye
I do
and
that a
clear it.
lot. Yeah.
That's very valid. You could also, if you do Reiki, you can do Reiki symbols over your stones and do it. Now, people will, and again, this is all intuition, and this is more on behalf of doing it as a ritual for humans than for the crystals. So you can put your crystals out in the full moon, or you can put them out in the sun if you want to do it that way. You can. I do not recommend personally putting them in like crystal or like salt baths because, well, no. Just because some of the stones can disintegrate or be damaged by the salt. So I I can see that you could do a bed of salt and you could put them, on top of a bed of salt or put it on top of a big chunk of Himalayan salt or something. But soaking them in salt water, I would, in general, unless you want to do the research and make sure that their hardness is enough that it won't be damaged, like malachite, selenite, halite, those things are going to dissolve and be damaged. Chrysocolla, those are all going to be damaged by something that harsh. Then the other, so that's like clearing negative energy. So, like I said at the beginning, crystals they do vibrate constantly, the same constant vibration. Nothing really changes them like they do with us. But sometimes I feel like they need to be re-energized. So examples that I can think of are obsidians, malachite, and rose quartz. Those I have had personal stories told to me, like directly from people, that they have like held the rose quartz during a grief process they were going through, that it actually cracks.
Yes, I did
And
that too.
yes, and I've actually had people say that their stones will change color.
I had a
Not
friend who had an amethyst and she was going through a lot in her life and she would keep it on her. It was like a little worry, like a flat worry stone, and she would keep it on her. It kept cracking. Like she would try to buy a new amethyst. She had like three or four. It would crack. It kept changing color. And I think it was just really working on her and absorbing a lot, transmuting. Like you said, the amethyst can transmute.
Mhm.
She could not keep one. And I said, trust it. It's okay. Your intuition has been telling you to buy this amethyst. Don't worry. It's helping you, it's doing its job.
Ac- Very much so. And then that case, it had filled its capacity, it had done its job, and then if she brought another one in, then the same thing.
Yeah.
So you can, what I think about it, how I think about it is like if you took a clear quartz and you stuck it in a mud puddle and you pulled it out, it's still a beautiful clear quartz. It just has gunk around it from its environment. So stones that have been used, especially for healers who have been doing some really intense healing on some of their clients, it's good to re-energize them or to quote unquote clear them, though their vibration really isn't changing. They've just collected in their field the energy. So sound healing, again, very quick, extremely effective to get that cleared out immediately. If you have more time, you can set it on selenite or you could use smoke or something like that. But that's what I would recommend to re-energize crystals after they've been used in not the highest vibrational circumstances, if that makes sense.
So does the charging in the sunlight or the moonlight add to that? Do they absorb that energy?
Okay, so this is just my personal opinion. So take it or leave it if it doesn't resonate. I don't think it makes a difference. I think it's a human ritual thing we like to do.
Oh,
We like to go through this process of they're still going to be the same. Um, moon energy, which I love, uh, is a reflection of the sun. So, some people say that moon energy isn't a good energy to put your stones in at all. But I think it's if you want to do it, I think you absolutely should do it and know that your crystals understand you are doing this as an extension of the love you have for them. And it is an honoring ritual for you. And they will be so grateful and honor you back by working with you. I will say though, like amethyst for sure, if you put in direct sunlight over an extended period of time, it will fade. So some of the stones can be affected by sunlight that way. Can't think off the top of my head of other stones that will do that, but I know amethyst does. Um, but that totally is I don't do that because if I took, I'm not kidding you, my thousands of stones every full moon, that's all I would do my whole life.
yeah, that would
Is
be your
take them
whole
off the
routine.
shelves and put them back on the shelves to take them off again. So I just do the quick and dirty way. But I absolutely think if that is something that you want to do, you absolutely should do it because it's all about heart. It's all about you honoring and showing your love for your ally. So,
Way to put it. Yeah. So I want to ask you about programming. Can you tell us what do you mean by programming a crystal and how would you go about doing that?
a lot of so some people will use crystals specifically for like say abundance or specifically for finding a relationship or finding a new job. And I'm not going to say 100% of the time it should be clear quartz because maybe there are some other ones that you can do that, but primarily you would be using clear quartz because that is to be considered programmable. I personally I don't I don't like that term because it makes it again feel like it's this thing we use
Yeah,
and there has to be like an agreement. So to quote unquote program, or I would say more like to work in alliance with a courts to bring about a desired goal, is to use your intuition, intuitively find the stone that for instance, you need to find a new job. So you find the crystal that you have, or you look for a crystal with that in mind. So you're kind of putting out there this flashing neon light. I need a new job. I need a new job. I need a new job. Any of you guys can help me with that. Then you'll have a crystal that winks at you. And then you take that home and then you work with it. You do all the rituals of clearing it, cleaning it. And then uh, for me, most of my meditation or when I'm working with crystals, I hold to my high heart. I don't really leave them in my hand anymore. I bring them to the high heart and I just sit with them. And it's to me, it's a time that you spend getting to know them, to setting up a relationship with them, asking them, is there anything I can do for you? Anything that I need? I would appreciate it if you could help me with this goal. And then you will get a yes or no if they will help you or not. When that goal is reached, I would recommend that you take that quartz again, sit with it, thank it, and say, I appreciate you helping with this. You no longer have to hold that with you or help me with that. You get to go on a vacation and I'll bring you back some other time when I need something else. And then you can use the same quartz to reprogram another wish or desire or goal. It doesn't always mean that they're going to help you. That's why it's good to work with them first and ask them. Again, some of these books or people will tell you that, again, it treats it like a spatula or an oven, and they're not. They have free will. They can or cannot help you if they choose to, depending on how you treat them. So that's what I would say with that.
perspective you're offering because I think so many people, right, if we just go to Google or YouTube, it is very like these are tools, these are machines, these are spatulas, and I don't often hear the perspective of, well, they're beings and they're conscious and they have free will and they are someone that we can build a relationship with. They're allies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing that. And I know you've worked with them for so many years in order to really get to know them and learn how to have relationships with them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So I definitely want to ask you about crystal grids, and then I think we'll kind of start to wrap up after that. So
Sounds great.
what is a crystal grid and how would you use one?
So grids in and of themselves are just like a recipe. So individually, they're ingredients. You bring in an amethyst and a quartz and rhodochrosite. They salt, pepper, onions. Individually, they bring to the table their own individual uniqueness. But when you put them together, magic happens and a synergy happens. So it's kind of like writing a new formula or a recipe for yourself. And I can guarantee you, if you already have crystals, you've already gridding and you don't even realize that you're gridding, like wearing jewelry. When two or more gather, miracles happen. Have you ever heard that?
Yes, yes, I've heard that phrase. So I
So
was listening without even realizing it.
yes,
That's so
yes,
funny.
yes. So whenever you put two or more crystals in close proximity to each other, you create a grid or you create a recipe of energy that is unique. It's a unique synergy because you've combined these frequencies together. So whenever you wear jewelry out like this, like God only knows what my grids are about today, but I have bowls of rocks, of stones. I'll just put a whole bunch in.
Yeah.
That is a grid. You have created a unique synergy of energy because you've done that. If you have them lined up on a shelf, that is a grid. I can guarantee you, if you don't believe me, you go home, you take one of your crystals off the shelf or you rearrange them, it'll feel different because you've changed the formula and the way they're communicating and interacting with each other. A lot of people walk around with a handful of stones in their pockets during the day. And every day they're deciding which stones they need to take with them. They're gridding themselves, not even realizing that that's what you're doing. So if you think about it, if you intentionally set up a grid, excuse me, you're creating a magical waking walking meditation kind of thing.
And you could also set an intention with it too and
Oh,
ask them to help with something.
absolutely. So those examples I just gave are just us unconsciously setting grids.
Just so cool.
If you want to intentionally set grid, there are some general kind of steps to follow, but there's no hard and fast rules per se. Number one, there usually is some sort of focal point. I brought a grid. One of the grids that I make. Let's see.
My goodness, look at that.
So this is called Gaia's Lullaby, and this would be the focal stone.
Oh, how
So there
beautiful.
usually is something that pulls it together. It'd be a main stone, or it could be some other artifact that you put on. So it usually draws and defines the grid. It's important when you're putting a grid together to think of the location that you put your grid in. So it could be if you have cats in the house that like to run around on the counters, every time a grid, like this is glued, but if this was not glued and a cat walks by it, it disrupts the flow of the energy and then the energy has to be reset. So you think about where you want to put it. The kids and animals can't get at it, but you also want to be able to see it. So part of the magic of the crystal grids is that you can see it and focus your intention of what you did the grid for. So if I just hid this under my couch, I would not be thinking about how I want to bring healing to Gaia. So if I saw it somewhere every day, my heart energy goes into the grid and the grid dispenses the requirement or the request to the universe kind of thing. So you want to have it in a location that it's safe, but that you can see it often enough to connect with it on a regular basis. The length of time for a grid is completely up to you. And again, that's that intuition word, right? So if you are, if your child is going on a school trip and you want to set a protection grid for them, you obviously would set it for the length of time that that child is gone. If you're looking for a new job, you set it for the length of time you're looking for a job thing. It doesn't, one of those things that you have to use your intuition to see if there is a time frame. Many times I will just set up grids in my home, like a Day of the Dead grid or a grid healing for Gaia, and I just leave it up to whenever I hear them say it's time to take us down, we've done our job. There is no limit to the number of grids you can have in your home. So you can go hog wild, and literally, if you have a lot of stones, like I said, 2 or more in close proximity creates grids. You probably have a ton of grids already.
I'm thinking about all the grids I have that I didn't realize were grids all over the house.
You're only limited by your own sensitivity to the energy. So if it's too much for you, then you'll know that you need to disperse the grid or not have as many around. When you're building grids, you can incorporate other elements in them. So you can add flowers or acorns or jewelry or things like that. You can put in, if you're doing a healing grid for a person, for example, you can put a picture, or many people will put a picture of the person that they're sending loving, healing energy to. It is recommended, and I highly recommend that picture that you include is one when they were healthy and happy. So that's what you want to put out there. And when you set the intention of a grid, you want to be careful on the wording. You want to really focus on what you want to bring in and not what you want to repel. Because I'm not so sure that the universe listens so much to the details like push away, bring to, just that it's abuse or it's loving relationship.
Yeah.
Yes. So if it's a relationship grid to bring love into your life, you don't set a grid up that says, I don't want a controlling, abusive, stingy man anymore. You build a grid that brings in a loving, compassionate, understanding person, right? So that makes sense. That is about all I could come up with, like for the general rules for a grid. But there are different shapes. Can I go over the shapes real quick or no?
Please, I would love to see some more examples.
I do have a cheat sheet, and I only did bring one grid out. But so this one that I was showing you, it would be considered a spiral grid. So it goes from out and then it goes in. So spiral grids are used often for the physical manifestation of time. So, right, if you think of a spiral, we usually think of infinity and time and all that. You also use it depending on how you activate a grid to either bring something in or release or get something out. So when you activate a grid, you'll lay all your stones out, and then you kind of set your intention. You say what the intention is. You can write the intention down and put it underneath the grid or underneath the focal point if it isn't glued. And then you activate it with either a quartz point or with your eye. A lot of times I just do my third eye. And I'll say, I want to bring in love. And so when I activate my grid, I see it moving from this way in. And say I'm doing a grid where I want to release the negative energies from a physical illness I just recovered from or something like that. Then when I activate the grid, I'm going to activate it counterclockwise, throwing it out to the universe instead of bringing it in from the universe. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so when you activate, you can either use your third eye by kind of looking and intending to send that energy beam, or you said you could use a clear quartz.
Yeah, just as a pointer. Yes.
Point it physically.
And then you would just run it. If I was, I don't think I have a quartz close to me, a little one. Yeah, you would just hold it and run it with your hand the way you want it to do it. So that's all you have to do for that. Um, some grids are put in a shape of stars. And stars usually in general terms represent protection or like higher states of consciousness or third eye activation type things. So a five-pointed star, which we know is a pentagram, it's not about witches and devils, right? It's about love and healing and well-being is usually what pentagrams stand for or represent. A six-pointed star is known as the Star of David. A lot of that, to me, six-pointed stars, when I would build those, I'm trying to anchor something from heaven to earth, as above, so below. Because it's the way the triangle up and the triangle down. It's like an octahedron that's been kind of squished to each other. So that's how I view the six-pointed star. And then a seven-pointed star, I actually have a grid in my business where it's called Elven's Touch, because the seven-pointed star is about bringing in fairy energy and the fae. So you could do research to find out, the number of points in a star and what that energy represents, and you could build grids that way. Squares, building a grid in a square. I have one that I make that is called the Band of Brothers, and it actually brings in troll energy, which is very protective, wonderful energy, and like copper and shungite, I think, and black tourmaline, but it's all about protection, and it's set in a square, and squares are about protection. So if you're want to build a grid to protect someone going on a trip or protect your home while you're gone or anything like that, a square is a good one, a good shape to use. It also will bring in purification and stability. So that shape for a grid. Triangles. Triangle ones are used, again, for protection. You can use them to neutralize negative energy and to bring in positive energy. Again, thinking of what energy of a pyramid would do, only it's like flat. And then a circle. Circle is all about you wanting to bring in endless amounts of whatever. That's what circles, right? They just endless, endless, endless.
Yes.
It also can represent and bring in the energy of Gaia, because we think of our planet Earth. It's also about balance and perfection. So especially the balance of feminine, masculine energy. Circles can be used. And then the infinity symbol, which is that 8, is usually used to bring in prosperity. But I also use it as a balance grid because of the fulcrum in the middle is balancing two worlds. I always see it, and I get a lot of meditations where I am currently being the fulcrum of merging of two worlds. So I think that you can use, and I do use, the infinity symbol that way. And I think that's all I can't think of any other shapes to mention.
Did you have diagrams you wanted to show, or do you think just listing through them gives people enough to get started?
Oh, with the shapes?
Yeah.
I didn't make a diagram. I did my cheat
Oh,
sheet.
gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Sorry.
No worries.
I didn't do anything fancy.
Um,
But that's what grids are, really powerful ways to get your intentions out to the universe. And they're so much fun to build.
I was gonna say, it just sounds fun, picking the different crystals that call to you. Yeah, building it. I've had a lot of fun building grids. So beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, so as we start to wrap up, I guess, my gosh, you've shared so much, probably beyond beginner, but this is so much beautiful, incredible information. So thank you for all of this. Do you have any last pieces of advice or tips or things that people should know as we wrap up? And then the other thing I was wondering, I was curious if any of your crystal skulls would want to say anything. I know you have at least one there. I'd invite them if they have any messages to share as we're teaching humanity about crystals. Oh my gosh, a big one.
Oh, he's a big one. His name is Arthur. And it's unfortunately, you can't really see he's so many rainbows. He's a citrine with tons of rainbows. And the point on the back here, he's called a traveler. And it's supposed to mimic like the comet, tail of a comet. So a lot of these are galactic in nature. And Arthur, do you have anything you'd like to say? No, Arthur's just been holding space for me the whole time. And so I have a couple of I have a couple of what I call my dragon eyes. They're charged on my skulls that have dragon energy in them. And since they're heavy skulls, I just carry their eyeballs with me. But a lot of what Arthur and the other skulls talk, like first, just very, very quickly, skulls are different than regular stones because it has the energy of the actual mineral itself. So Arthur has within it the energy of the crystal being that resides in it. But because it's shaped like a skull, kind of like grids, depending on the shape that you make them, it's sending out to the universe there is an agreement that other beings can occupy the crystal skull to work with you. So Arthur is named after King Arthur, and he brings in that Christ consciousness and the new Avalon. And he's actually he is the ringleader, if you will, of the round table and the high council when we work with the inner earth council.
Which
so Arthur,
we're going to do another episode on. We're going to bring Carol back and we're going to get more into this with the crystal skulls and the inner earth beings and council. So more to come if you're interested in this.
But this dude is the dude that kind of holds all that up. So his big thing and all of the crystal beings are, if you want to work with us, respect us for who we are. We have been around a lot longer than you have. We contain the wisdom of the ages within us, which we are happy to unlock for you with the proper respect and love that we show you, we would like to be shown ourselves. So I think that that's really important. Moving forward, if you are developing a love and exploring your love for crystals, to understand, again, they are so much more than a tool. They are life-changing allies that have spent millions, if not billions of years to find you in your home to work with today. So give them the respect that they so deserve. I mean, I think about that. I think about that. Yeah. And the skulls in of themselves bring in a whole nother layer and level of expansion for an individual when they are willing to work with them in a way that they need to work with them. Again, they are so happy to work with you if you have an open heart. The open heart thing is just a big thing with them. Going beyond your ego, going beyond they say the human ego.
Human ego.
The human ego, and understanding who we are and who we represent. And it's life-changing, absolutely life-changing.
Yeah. I want to ask a clarifying question about the skulls because I know all crystals are conscious, and so you can have conversations with them, receive messages. So are the skulls a little different in that it's kind of holding space for like more of a spirit to come in? Am I getting that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's how I understand it.
Yeah.
Is they are housing for you the essence of what we know in our collective consciousness as Arthur, King Arthur. As I have currently defined it, this being comes in and says and shows me literally when I brought him home from the rock show, set him on the table, was taking a nap, and that's the first thing I saw is Excalibur come through, and then I saw him coming in on a horse, and he is anchoring in the Christ consciousness on this planet right now. What skulls will do is they will give you a name, but they don't need to be named. They're identified as frequency. So they know me because they've been waiting for me. The being that inhabits this have been waiting, like, when is she going to be at the level that I can work with? So he knows, this being knew how to get my attention. Like, call me Arthur. This is how I'm showing you who I am, which is really a representation of the energy he's coming and bringing through.
Yeah.
Yes. So a lot of my skulls are like that. I will ask for names, though they are not identified by that name. It is a name that they can connect to me because they do. You're exactly right. They are beings that kind of stand around and wait for you until you're ready. And then they will find a skull that has agreed to allow them to inhabit. It doesn't mean that I can't work with those beings outside of the skull. It's just that I'm human and I like a focal point.
Yeah.
Because there's only so much, stories I can tell myself and make believe stories in my head. I'd like to have a focal point for them, right?
Yeah.
So that's why skulls work for me, and that's why the beings will willingly go into a skull for me, because of the way I like to connect with them. But it doesn't mean that being, I do have skulls, that being can come and go through that skull at will. It kind of houses them and helps sort of adjust their energy to the 3D-ness, because a lot of the galactic energies
Yeah.
have to dumb down to our 3D. And then, yeah, I'm trying to think of any other. Yeah, they're just incredible. And at least from my experience, from my personal experience, and the people that I know that I have sold skulls to, or who have skulls themselves, it's these are beings, these are collaborations that are made between lifetimes, that you are going to work with them. And they wait until you reach the level that you have agreed to reach, to where you can bring in and work in collaboration with them. And especially with like the galactic or the star being energies, they need foot soldiers, right? They need someone in a meat suit, if you will. I hate that term, but in a physical body,
Yeah.
that can actually do the things that need to be done in a physical sense. Like the work that you do, all of the gridding and clearing that you do, they so much can't do it because of their vibration.
Yeah.
So they will come through in skull form, for me anyways, as a focal point to kind of give me my marching orders. Like, okay, this is what you need to do, or this is who you are. So this is the next step you need to take, and all those other things that crazy ladies do when they talk to their skulls.
Yeah, so for you, it's a way that they can reach you and come through and kind of focus themselves in to deliver messages and communicate with you. And you like having that visual and physical, tangible thing that you could hold on to.
Absolutely. And a lot of times you'll find the collaboration of the crystal being and the other being that's in there. Oftentimes, like, Arthur chose to come through a citrine, not through an obsidian, not through a rose quartz, not through an amethyst, through citrine, because citrine holds that solar power, that Christ consciousness power, and that's the energy he is working on stabilizing and anchoring into the planet. So there is a collaboration that way too,
Yeah.
of the frequency of the stone and the being that wants to come in. There is some kind of chit-chatting that's going on during that process also. So
So the last thing that I'll ask you about this before we close, because we do have another episode coming up where we're going to talk about inner earth beings, which is a subject I know absolutely nothing about. So Carol has lots of these the crystal skulls. So am I correct in saying that you're on a council, or there is a council of inner earth beings and they are able to come through these skulls and commune with you? Is that accurate?
yes. Okay, I'll try to make this one sentence long so we don't not go another hour and a half.
Yeah.
It has come through my attention through working with the skulls. I have a set of skulls If you go to my Facebook page, Heaven in Earth, I-N, not on Earth, and in, you will see a picture of my high council of skulls. That is sending out codes. It's a coded picture, so you can pick up on that energy if you want. That through them and through my own work, and then that'll be a story for the next time of how this was open. A portal had been opened to what I refer to as the Inner Earth Council, which truly is the group of beings that were here at the inception of the planet when the Shambhala arrangement nirvana was created. And there's a covenant involved with these agreements with these beings. Blah, blah, blah. Covenant broken. We're here today. Covenant needs to be restored. Portals all over the world are being opened to the Inner Earth Council, you being one of them, where we are being asked to be their foot soldiers to bring forth the healing of the covenant and the healing of the planet, because it's just time. So when I refer to inner earth beings, I am talking about they are star people, and they are other realm beings who have been here since the beginning of the planet and have chosen to operate out of the inner earth. Though they can and they do leave and come back, and there are, movement like an airport, if you will. But yeah, it's pretty intense right now. Lots of portals being cleared and opened. And we'll talk about that in a whole other episode. But yes, that's when I refer to inner earth, they are the beginning beings of the planet, the group of beings that came in to start the planet.
I have so many questions, but we'll get into that in our next episode.
Thank you, Lauren, for having me. It was so delightful to talk and just letting me ramble.
Yes, thank you. I learned so much today, and
good.
And I just hope that the right people find you, because this episode is so packed with so much amazing information. So thank you for sharing everything you have.
Absolutely. You're welcome.